case has gone on for some time. We have watched it climb into the headlines, in and out. But this day, Jodi Arias spared the death penalty. The 6th day of deliberations. We knew from reports that this jury possibly would be hung on this. Judge Alex Ferrer, along as our #OneLuckyGuy today, we're lucky to have you. What are we watching here? What does this mean for Jodi Arias?
Okay, as I was saying before they walked in, we had the conviction, the guilt phase of the trial, and she was found guilty. But the penalty phase, the jury couldn't reach an agreement on whether she should get the death penalty or life in prison, which are the only two options. As a result, the prosecution decided to retry her on the death penalty phase. In other words, give another jury an opportunity to decide death or life in prison. I criticized that when they made that decision. I thought they should have just gone for life because you'll remember this trial lasted 5.5 months. Yeah. Now, I've tried a lot of murder trials. This case should not have lasted anywhere near 5.5 months. And the idea that you were going to retry it in front of a jury who didn't hear any of that and hope to get the death penalty, I thought was a huge long shot.
Well, and just to kind of take everybody back, and I know on the couch, Ainsley, you and I have covered this over some time. This was a very interesting woman to cover. She had some very interesting moments on camera. She gave some early on interviews. She was doing yoga moves inside the holding tank, when the holding cell, when they first brought her in. I mean, she's had a very colorful history in the media, but it's the details of that crime that were so jarring and really catapulted it to be high profile.
I think everybody followed this case because, I hate to say run-of-the-mill murder, because somebody's dead in any murder case, but they do become run-of-the-mill murders, and this was anything but. I referred to this case as 50 Shades of Cray-Cray, because she was just nuts. I mean, she not only killed him, she killed him like repeatedly with 30 stab wounds and slitting his throat and shooting him in the head. But you also had all of this sex that was brought into the trial about the sex life between her and her boyfriend, and it just grabbed the nation. Everybody wanted to hear about the case. But now it cost them over $3 million to retry it in the hopes of getting the death penalty again.
Can I ask a question? What happens next? Death penalty's off the table.
Yes.
Where do we go from here?
Okay, so what the judge did was she was basically setting a sentencing date. The judge has discretion to sentence her to life without parole or to life with eligibility for parole after 25 years, and that's the judge's call. So the defense asked for 30 days to prepare for that hearing to show reasons why she should be eligible for parole, and so the judge scheduled it. She typically would order a pre-sentencing investigation, which is done by the Department of Corrections. They look into her background, they basically do a full picture of the defendant, so the judge has more information, and Jodi Arias waived it. She said she didn't want them to
So
consider.
life, say she gets 25 years, right? Is there any chance she could get paroled before 25 years?
No. Arizona has a law that's different from a lot of states. It basically says you get a second crack at the death penalty, and if it doesn't happen, then it's automatically life. Now, it's just a question of whether she'll be eligible for parole after 25 or not eligible for parole at all.
Okay, so we're just hearing via our reporter Adam Housley, who's done such great journalism on this story since it first broke. He's saying that the wailing, that the weeping, the crying that we could hear happening inside the courtroom was actually Travis Alexander's family, the victim's family. And again, we didn't have a camera right then and there, and it wasn't necessary because that really cuts across all lines.
We saw the back of someone that looked like they were consoling themselves.
You know, at one point the judge, after ordering April 13th, was the date that they kind of decided on together, the attorneys, when they would go in for that sentencing. So the judge ordered that be put into place. And then she said something about a prison report to be prepared. So she'll go right away.
Yeah, that was
to prison.
Well, that was the pre-sentence investigation report that she waived, which is done typically to give the judge a full background on the defendant, a full picture of the defendant. But she has the right to waive it, which she did, so that's not going to be prepared. And so they'll have the sentencing on the 30th, as soon as she's sentenced to life in prison. I'm sorry, on the 13th, and the 30th day. As soon as she's sentenced to life in prison, she will be taken to a prison facility for processing to decide what prison she'll serve her time at.
And is this it, Judge? Because
it's never it with
I was just going to ask you. I mean, $3 million they've spent. You didn't think that they should retry this? I mean, I think some people are wondering, when is this woman going to go away?
Well, she's not going to go away. She's going to continue to file motions. She likes the attention. That's what this was always about. You saw her giving interviews. No defendants give interviews to the media.
Didn't she want to represent herself, Judge?
At some point, she actually wanted to represent herself, and she withdrew that request. But we'll hear from her. We would have heard from her even more. It would have cost even more had she been sentenced to death, because a lot of people are under the mistaken impression that it's cheaper to execute somebody than it is to sentence them to life. And you hear that argument all the time. Why should we pay to house them? You could actually house 3 people for life for the cost of executing 1. So, because of the number of appeals through the state and federal system.
What do you think swung the jury toward that she truly is mentally unstable?
Well, I don't know that the jury
Is it the forensic overkill?
I don't know that the jury decided she's mentally unstable. I think we would all agree on that, but it's not really the deciding factor in a death penalty case.
Okay.
In a death penalty case, there are aggravating factors and there are mitigating factors. One of the biggest aggravating factors here would be heinous, atrocious, and cruel, the way the crime was committed. And then the mitigating factors of her.
I just don't understand the hung jury part of it. That's
what that means is that some of the jurors felt that the prosecution had proven a strong enough case of aggravating factors that outweigh the mitigating factors. That they deserved death. And there were some who felt that the state hadn't proven that sufficiently.
Well, and there might be the argument that, women on death row, it's not something that we see a lot of. And I wonder if that played a role in this, too.
I can tell you that from experience, jurors do not like to send women to death row. And they certainly don't like sending attractive women to death row. Like if you're, a monster like Warnos from Florida, who is a serial killer who would just go up and down Alligator Alley, killing men, it's easier for them to do. But it's difficult in general. Arizona has 3 women on death row.
Okay. Judge, a great day to have you along to break it all down for us.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, lots of breaking news.